here with us tonight. I'm Lynn Erdman. For any of you I have not had a chance to meet, and I'm the executive director of the Pink House. And so I work with the fabulous team and as well as all of you through the Pink House. And we're thrilled to have you tonight. June's a special month. It's Cancer Survivors Month. And so we thought tonight would be a fun celebration for us if we heard from some of our mentors that support and work with our new survivors. So we've asked several if they would share their stories tonight. So I think you'll find it very interesting. I'm going to invite Pam Phipps to start tonight. And for those of you that don't know about Pam, she is one of the founding members of Carolina Breast Friends. She actually helped start this organization along with Christy Adams-Ebel, who was the founding director and founder of Carolina Breast Friends. But I'll let Pam share her story.
I'm so excited
Pam,
to see everybody tonight.
You.
This is great. Carolina Breast Friends started back in 2003, and Christy Adams-Ebel was only 32 years old, and when she was diagnosed, she was diagnosed with a very complicated diagnosis and a difficult one, but she was determined that she was going to get through it, and it inspired her to go on to find others that she could help. And this actually happened when she was in the chemo room. And when they would go, she and two or three, there were 4 others that were in chemo with her. And they sort of empowered each other and gave each other strength to get through their journeys. And she was, at the time, seeing Dr. White. Some of you may have Dr. White as a surgeon. And Dr. Frenette was her oncologist. And we still have such great support from them today. But Christy had, at the same time, Christy was having these conversations, and I was having surgery, and I had been diagnosed with and caught my breast cancer very early. But during that same year, in October, I saw an article right after my surgery. I saw an article in the paper, and she had put an article in the paper that she and several others had felt that they would reach out and see if there were any other survivors out there who could form a group and be strong and empowered and help other women. And she was excited about it, and she had looked in many places, and she could not find a group that she felt comfortable with. And she said too many were pity parties. Too many were, not feeling strong and empowered. And she wanted that to happen. So she said, I've decided I'm going to start a group by myself and along with these other women and see if we can't do that. Are there any other 30-year-olds out there? And if so, let me know, because I'd love for you to be a part of it. Well, I immediately saw the article and thought, that's me. I want to do this, because I was so fortunate. I'm so blessed to have caught mine early. And so I called her up, and I said, immediately, she was so responsive, and, oh, this sounds great. I'm so excited to hear from you. And I said, well, I have one problem about your article, because you said, are there any other 30-year-olds out there? And I said, I'm not 30, I'm 56. And she said, oh, that's okay. Cancer doesn't pick and choose. She said, it's going to be every age. And Carolina Breast Friends, we want for every age. And so that's all it took. I met with her for lunch after that, and met with her group over at now Atrium, now Levine. And we met with the counselor over there who met with us, and we started, I started trying to help them. They were already, at that point in October, they were already applying for their nonprofit status. So it was exciting to have that happen. And so that was a total at that time of 5 of us. And we went on to, within the next 2 or 3 months, once in January, we got the nonprofit status. And by probably April, we had 10 or 15 other survivors who had joined us. So Christy went on to help us grow, and by she became more involved right at the beginning and midway, but she hung in there all the way. She lost her battle 3 years later when she was 36, but she had a very aggressive form of breast cancer, and she knew that might be the chance, but that didn't deter her at all. So anyway, so she empowered the board, all of us, and said, I know this can happen. I know we can have a pink house, and I think you can do this, and I empower you all to try to take this on and make the pink house a reality. So several of us, of course, at the time, that was rather daunting, but we decided we would give it a shot and work at it and see how it went. And it just got better and better. We met at Myers Park Methodist Church for 7 years. And I went on to have my double mastectomy and reconstruction, and that was 17 years ago. So I'm so blessed. And Christy passed away in 2006, and in 2009, we, after meeting in the church, in the churches, that particular church, and they were so nice to have us there for that many years. We thought we might get kicked out, but we didn't. And then we were looking for a place to be at that point, because Carolina Breast Friends at that point had probably 25 other survivors with us, and we were doing mentoring, and everything was just established, just like, sort of like we're doing now, but on a much bigger scale. So we were fortunate to be able to find the pink house, and I'm not going to go into all of that story, but we were fortunate to find the Dunaways, Kenny and Kenny, listen to me, the Dunaway family, and they sold the pink house to us after much negotiation, and they were so willing to try to make this happen for us, and they agreed to finance the house. And by doing that, we were able to purchase the house, even though we had had the year before we'd had the economy crash, and we weren't sure it was going to take place, but it did. And so Christy is, her spirit is alive at the Pink House, and I just hope that any of you new people who have not been there yet, new survivors, will come by and be, will soon be able to be in the house and feel her spirit and the warmth that it has.
Thank you, Pam. You can tell that she loves the Pink House, and of course, we do love her. She has been a devoted volunteer as well as a board member for a number of years. So thank you for sharing that, Pam.
Absolutely.
And who's going to go second? I don't have the list in front of me, so I'll just have to admit that. Do I just pick? All right. Ann Nelson. Can you share your story with us?
Unmute. Okay. Well, thank you. This is a real privilege to be here tonight. Although I didn't get to meet Christy in person, I really felt her energy and spirit when I first learned of the Pink House back in 2005, and had the privilege of working alongside many of Pam's good friends as they were raising funds to make the Pink House happen with two big fundraisers. And so I definitely got to see these women in action, and it didn't matter what stage of their journey, they were giving their hearts and souls to make her dream become a reality and flourish the way it is today. And it will be exciting to see where it goes from there. One of the reasons why I got involved was because breast cancer runs quite heavily on both sides of my family. So I knew it was a question of possibly when. You know, I never, I don't know. I don't think any of us can look in that crystal ball and just assume that we're going to dodge the bullet. I just knew that the odds were probably stacked. And so it was quite interesting in 2011, right after you had, well, I guess it was a few years after you opened the doors there, but I learned on August 15th, 2011, that will be my 9th birthday, that I had breast cancer. And so my first thing was, you know, I've just got to gather as much research as I can. And I felt very good knowing that I could walk into the doors of the Pink House. And I had met Pam Darnell, who had worked there and was there right from the beginning with the vision. And she just really helped ground me and reassure me that I would find the care that I needed in Charlotte and help me start that pathway. And so 2 weeks later, I was in having surgery, and what I thought I would do prior to learning the news, I didn't do it. I had to stop, pause, create my own pathway. And so I did the lumpectomy first. That same week, I had genetic testing done, took a few weeks to get the results. And a few weeks after that, learned that I had the BRCA1 gene. And what I did find interesting is for many years, when I would go see my doctors, they would always ask pretty much for the mother's side of the history. And I would question, you know, it took my father too to be a part of this. And on dad's side, ovarian and breast cancer ran pretty heavily too. So it was interesting. It was my dad's side of the family, after talking with other relatives, that that gene came from. But anyway, a few weeks after learning those results, I was eligible for internal mammocyte radiation. So it was still experimental, year 9 at that point, over at Presbyterian. But the odds, or not odds, but the results were pretty much comparable with external versus internal. So I thought, how else are we going to have research and information available if I don't give it a shot? So I did. And so instead of going 35 rounds of external, I had 5 days, 2 times a week, 2 times a day, the internal mammocyte, and finished that late September. 2.5 weeks after that, I went in and had total oophorectomy, because with that BRCA1, I had a 55% chance of getting ovarian. And having watched my mother-in-law and my aunt go through that, I knew I wanted to spare my family, first of all, but also myself. So did that, and met with the oncologist and started the Arimidex, which I was real nervous doing with all the side effects. And my husband's aunt over in England said to me, "Ann, have you read the back of the Bayer aspirin bottle? If you see what the side effects are with that, would you take it?" And so anyway, thought I would give the gift to myself and start that journey. And throughout that year, my husband and I went out to Duke, met with 3 different specialists out there. And the good news is they all concurred with the pathway, but what it also affirmed was the strength of the team that I had met in Charlotte. And I knew that's where I was going to have the rest of my surgeries done and meeting with oncologists. So I stayed in Charlotte, and I don't look back at any point on that. And then on my husband's birthday, November 1st, 2012, I gave him a birthday gift to myself. That's when I went in and did the double mastectomy and reduced my breast cancer recurrence from 87% down to less than 5%. So that felt good. And then, at least one more surgery after that. But what I'm very thankful for as a result of being diagnosed is for years after having my 3 boys, I was trying to get healthier, and it just seemed like every time I was trying, I was struggling with the weight, struggling with XYZ. And as a result of joining and participating programs at the Pink House, for example, the restorative yoga, and also Laura Coleman's strength training class, I am very pleased that I've been able to work on the physical side of it as well, which hopefully will continue to help protect me from another recurrence from breast cancer. And so I just continue to count my blessings. And as I said, in August, I will celebrate my 9th birthday, and I look forward to many more after that. So thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you. Maya, would you share your story? Hang on.
Hi. Sorry. If I could pause, I'd love to come back to it. I just don't know if I could truly go into the story with my kids still here right now.
Dina, would you want to share?
Sure.
Oh, good. Understood, Maya.
So I was diagnosed with stage 2 invasive ductal carcinoma in September of 2015. I got the call on March 18th that I was cancer-free. So if you Google survivor dates, you can use each one. I just choose to use the March 18th date as to when I got that call that all was clear. So I did 6 rounds of chemo every 3 weeks. And then I had my lumpectomy, which was a blessing because when they went to try to find the tumor, it was barely there. They could barely find it. So they just had to go in and clean it out. So my surgery was actually less than an hour. Then I had 6.5 weeks of radiation. So through all of that, I just thank God that he brought me through, and that when I was going through the process at different stages, I journaled everything that I was going through, and was just grateful. When I got to my first chemo treatment, I had gotten a bag from the Pink House. And I looked at the goodies inside, but I never opened the jar with the notes in it until later on in my journey. And I said, oh, it's the Carolina Breast Friends. Let me Google them. So it's not till after I finished my treatment that I actually came to the Pink House for the first time. And it was a Christmas party. So that right after that in January, I was like, they had a paper, asking if you want to volunteer. And I knew that during my journey that the Lord had always told me that you're not going through this for yourself, but to be a blessing to someone else. So I knew right away, well, of course, how can I help? How can I volunteer? So I started coming, and I have never stopped. And every time I walk in that door, it's just a blessing, you always think that you're going to bless someone else, and you always end up getting blessed by other people around you. All of the ladies that are there, it's just a blessing to see you all and to fellowship with you when we get together, to laugh and share stories and even cry sometimes, which is fine as well. So I just thank God for my journey. So I am a 4-year survivor, and I'm grateful for that. And that's it for me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Joyce, can you share your story?
Hi. Thanks for letting me do this. I too, mine is, my birthday is August 17th, and it will be 12 years. So I came in after Christy, but it was a regular mammogram that I'd had every year, and they called me back and said that it was, I got the call standing in our kitchen, and Tim was out of town. So the radiologist said, "Are you with someone?" And I said, "No, I'm by myself." And she said, "Well, I'm sorry to tell you, you have cancer." And I only know of one other person at the Pink House that has it, but it's infiltrating lobular. And my surgeon is Dr. Turk. And my husband, after the surgery, kept saying, "Well, how big was the lump?" And he said, "It's not a lump. It's like crabgrass, and it grows in and then grows across, grows in and across." It was 7.4 centimeters in a year. So I had the protocol at that time. I don't know what it is now, but if it's over 5 centimeters, you have to have a mastectomy. So they did that, and the nodes, and luckily, excuse me, none of the nodes were affected. And my surgeon was Dr. Turk, and he would not do a double mastectomy because my left breast was healthy. And at that time, insurance companies were real picky, and he said, "There are surgeons out there that will do it, but I will not because it's healthy tissue." So I loved him. So I wish I had it because, there's always that, I have to have a mammogram every year, and I just wanted it over with, but, it wasn't in the cards, and I loved him, and he was great. So, the only other thing, I had 16 chemos and 33 radiation. I did not get reconstruction. I'm one of the few. I wear a prosthesis because I was 56 years old, and like Pam, and I had a mastectomy and 33 radiation and 16 chemos, and I didn't want anybody else touching me. So, and my husband was fine with that. He says, "It's your decision." So I will never get reconstruction, but that's just me. So that was just my choice. And before you two that are going through this now, or the one that has not started yet, they will do all these tests before with your heart and all this kind of stuff. So I've forgotten what it's called, refraction or something rate before was on my heart was 70 before the chemo, and after they did another test, and it was 42. And I remember leaving, which was the Sanger Clinic near the Pink House, right across the street from the Pink House. And I went to the parking lot of the Pink House, cried, called my husband, and then went in and talked to Pam. And that helped tremendously. And sorry. But I've also known a lot of people who've cried in that parking lot. But, Pam Darnell was there. And I said, and I had neuropathy in my feet and my hands. And I said, "Pam, when does it stop?" And she said, "It doesn't, Joyce." And she said, "But it's real, and you're here, and you're okay." So that's the kind of support that you get at the Pink House. That night when I was by myself, I called both my sisters, one in Mooresville, one Rock Hill, and of course they both came. And that's the other part of my journey. Yes, the chemo and the radiation, but family and friends and faith in church were what got me through, because my sisters didn't ask me. I had chemo every Thursday, and one of them would come every Thursday night, spend the night, clean my house, cook, or do the laundry, do everything, and take me Friday for my Neulasta shot, and go for a Friday Frosty to try to get me to gain some weight. And then I had just retired in 2005 from being a teacher at Matthews, but they hired me back full-time as a writing tutor. So I was still a tutor. And that school, like so many others, but I think Matthews is so special. Tim and I were empty nesters by that time. They fed us twice a week for 8 months of my treatment, twice a week. So, and then my church, they didn't know what to do, so they gave us gift cards for restaurants, so that when we didn't have food, Tim could go get some. So we were never, hardly ever without food. And that's what got us through, was the faith, the friends, the family, the Pink House, and they're there for everything. And finding out information, like with my heart condition, I just found out this spring that the rate has gone down below 40, and if it goes to 35, then I'll have to get a defibrillator implanted. But I'm still here. So that is, and the other thing was, my oncologist was Andrea Johnson, and she's retired now, but she wouldn't let me go anywhere except school, which was kind of weird, because that's a petri dish. But since I was a tutor, I could stand behind the kids, and the kids knew. So I kept telling them, it's me, not you. But she wouldn't let me go to restaurants, church, anything, but I never got sick. So I didn't get to the Pink House until after all my treatment was over. But I was in touch. The girl across the hall from me was I think she was one of the founders, Carol Jackson. Pam, was she one of the founders? I thought so. So she taught right across the hall from me. So she had me, she got me stuff and talked to me, and she got me through a lot, since she'd already been there and knew Christy. And I remember when she went to Christy's funeral. But it's a hard road, but you'll make it. And with faith, friends, and family, and the Pink House, I can't say enough. That's what got me through. And still today, almost a 12-year survivor. And my husband, who some of you know, he kept me laughing. Like when they put my port in, he asked the lady, he said, "Okay, how many channels does that get?" So, he was the one that kept me laughing and kept my spirits up, and still does. But that's my story. And so it's a large part of it is the Pink House.
Thank you, Joyce.
Mm-hmm.
I did not realize that Carol Jackson was across the hall from you.
Yep, she was. She taught 4th grade, and I was the writing tutor when we still had the writing test.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maya, I see you've relocated. Is that it's a better time?
It's a better time.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much for your patience.
Please.
It was bedtime for the kids, and I said, well, I want to get on this Survivor call. I missed the last one. So I'm glad I was able to join. And I can share my story. Mine, unlike some of the stories I've heard so far, which I think it's so interesting that some of you found the Pink House after your actual treatment journeys, and still found such support and love here. My journey began on my diagnosis day of February 9th, 2017. I had just moved to Charlotte. I was nursing my second daughter, and that's how I found it. when I was diagnosed, it was not a tumor in either of my breast tissue. It was in the lymph node, and to the very end of the journey, they still could not find the actual source in the breast. They only found it in my lymph nodes from start to finish. They said it'd be very rare that there was not an actual mass in the breast. They just thought maybe the breast tissue was too dense, and I was nursing, and all of the things that were clouding the imagery, even though I had had multiple scans. They had to move forward with treating what they could find, which was a small tumor in the lymph node. It was triple negative breast cancer. So since it was in the lymph node, it was stage 2. And they essentially said, you got to stop nursing, wean, because we have to start chemo. We can talk about everything else after that, because triple negative is a little bit more aggressive. And because of my age, at the time I was 37. And so I was not going to have had mammograms yet. They just said, yeah, we should just go ahead and get started treating it. I had moved here recently, the September of the year prior. So I'd only been in Charlotte for 4 months. I lived in the Midtown area near the Target, and I would drive around to drop my daughter off at school, etc. And I would pass the Pink House almost every other day. And I thought, oh, that's so cool. Carolina Breast Friends. Oh, that's cute, pun on words. Look at that, the Pink House, but it's white. And and so it wasn't until I drove by it a couple times in the evening, I was like, oh, I get it. And this was before diagnosis. So when I did get diagnosed, ultimately, I still kept driving by it until my husband said one day, listen, you passed by a couple different places that maybe we should just stop into. And the Pink House was the first one that we stopped into, probably about a week or less after I got diagnosed. And upon entry, just welcoming, hug, introduction. They said they were going to give me a care bag, but more importantly, they took me a tour of the house and told me what they were there for. And from that moment forward, I was a believer. I gotta go to the Carolina Breast Friends would be a resource for me. I mean, I literally was in the process of getting second opinions. And so just being there and having another person who I did not know, another survivor, was sitting there from the couch doing whatever she was doing. And she heard me speaking about my diagnosis. And she chimes in, she said, excuse me, I don't want to interrupt, but you mentioned triple negative. She said, Levine Cancer Institute has a doctor who specializes in that. And I ended up going with the doctor that she suggested, just in passing. And so just having a community there that allowed me to just come and be. And while I was being, I learned. While I was learning, I was making friends in a new state that I knew no one in really. Similar to, is it Jillian? It's Jillian? Or I'm looking at the names here, but my sister who spoke a second ago, literally friends, family, faith, and the Pink House, really, really supported my journey. I ended up going through 12 rounds of AC chemo, and then, 4 rounds of AC chemo and 12 rounds of tamoxifen. Not tamoxifen, Taxol. Sorry. Taxol. I'm like, I was like, wait a second. I heard that too much. That's not me. Taxol. 12 rounds of Taxol following that. Then I ended up opting to do a double mastectomy. I too had Dr. Turk. I think he's changed his view over the years because he gave me the decision of what I wanted to do. And I looked at all the cards stacked up and I said, I don't want to have to think about it or worry about it. And if it ever comes back, I don't want to have to say, well, if I just, taken them away, both of them or one of them or what have you, I would have this. I didn't want to give an option. So I got a double mastectomy and I did do reconstruction. So that was on September 27th of 2017. And the reconstruction, shortly after that, I did radiation, which I thought was a choice. And soon found out that it wasn't a choice. I had to do it if I wanted to decrease my odds of getting a reoccurrence. And since triple negative is more aggressive when it comes to reoccurring, again, I wanted to minimize that. So I did that September 27th, and I had my pillow that was given to me from Breast Friends to help me through that. I had people who were supportive through that. The jar that you mentioned, Dina, earlier, I had gotten out on my first visit. And while I did not pull that out every day, I surely pulled it out when it was the hard days and I didn't feel like doing anything or talking to anybody. I said, let me see what these are saying to me. So that was pretty amazing. After that, the surgery, had my reconstruction. After my reconstruction, I finished right about the middle to end of December of 2017. And when they had given me that surgery and they took all the tissue out, I had a complete pathological response. So I was considered cancer-free from that moment, which was a blessing. I'm sorry, I'm going inside because it's very hot. I needed it for a second, but not now. And after I had all of my treatments completed in December of 2017, I felt like I was in the clear. Now, I was in the clear, but I did have issues with my surgeries. And so I've since had probably about 2 or 3 additional surgeries from complications. And my last was in November of this past year, so November 2019. And I do believe that's going to be my last surgery for a while. So I'm thankful that throughout the entire time, I've been able to go in and see people from the Pink House. And I was able to get second opinions about my surgeries from people at the Pink House and choose doctors from advice based off of other survivors at the Pink House and different seminars you guys have hosted. So for me, it's been really, really pivotal in my journey to have this resource of individuals who care, survivors who share, and just having the ability to connect on a consistent basis, even when I could not. There were a lot of times in the journey where I just couldn't bring myself to the actual location. I had my mentor, Charmaine, who, stayed in contact with me and looked out and let me know when things were. So that's my journey. I'm going to let it go now and pass it on to the next person. But I just am very, very thankful for the support that I've had with the Pink House, and then of my family and my friends and my faith. My church was similar to you. I mean, we had just started at a church, and they put together a meal train for us that provided multiple meals. Because if you can imagine, having my husband and I was not working at the time. I was the full-time caregiver, and then being diagnosed. I said, I don't want my kids to eat Wendy's every day. Like, I just can't do it. And my husband doesn't cook. And so they really helped in that way as well. My church just kind of lined up in support. So it takes a lot, guys, to get what we need, but it's there. And folks are there to support you and be there. And you just need to raise your hand and be okay receiving the assistance, be okay receiving the love.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Kathy Goodman, will you share your story?
I will be happy to. I don't know why my picture is not showing. I've hit every key I can find to try to show myself. I even brushed my hair. I put lipstick on and brushed my hair, but I don't know why I'm not showing, but that's okay. I want to say, ladies, y'all all look fabulous. I miss y'all so much. And Nelson, you've gotten a haircut. It looks great. Y'all all look so good. Oh my gosh, I wish we were together, but this is such a great way to be together and share. And Maya, I loved a statement you just made. The Pink House, Carolina Breast Friends, is made up of individuals who care and survivors who share. Oh my gosh, I love that. That was so inspirational, and that is who we are and who we strive to be. But so y'all have probably heard my story before at the Pink House, but I am a 14-and-a-half-year survivor and I was diagnosed, yay, I was diagnosed here in Charlotte. I actually found the lump myself while I was taking a shower one day. I had just fairly recently had a mammogram, as I did every year. And so it just stunned me that I had this lump in my right breast. And I made an appointment with my oncologist or my gynecologist, and he examined it and sent me quickly to Charlotte Radiology for an MRI, and then all of the steps up to Dr. Turk. I love Dr. Turk. I was diagnosed with ductal carcinoma in situ. I had a lumpectomy, but before my lumpectomy, I was put on chemotherapy right away for 3 months. I had Dr. Limentani, who was an associate of Dr. Frenette's, Christy's doctor, and the chemotherapy worked magic on me. It shrunk my tumor enough so that I could have a lumpectomy, and that was very successful. After I healed from the lumpectomy, I went on to more chemotherapy and radiation. I was actually on chemo. My entire treatment program was over a year because I was also diagnosed as HER2 positive. So I was on a targeted therapy, Herceptin, for a year. And so I took it all, but it was all worth it. And, you know, Pam, I loved hearing you talk about Christy. And every time I see a butterfly or a dragonfly, I always think of her. I remember being in her bedroom and seeing the butterflies, the butterflies and dragonflies all over her bedroom wall, and she loved them, and she was such a free spirit. They represented her so very well. And but I agree that her spirit does live on in the Pink House and in all of those who knew her and who were touched by her spirit. And you know, it's not only Christy, but it's Pam Phipps and it's Joyce Gillen and all of you here today that bring her spirit on and help those new survivors that come to us, that find us either by driving by the Pink House or finding our inspiration jars or our survivor bags, our comfort bags, and we're so glad they do. But there's nothing like it to have women there who know what you've been through or that just need to reach out to others who are ahead of them in their journey. And for me, it was like I couldn't wait to go to the survivors meeting when I first met up, because I was so full of questions to ask Pam Phipps and Pam Darnell and all of the women there who were a couple of years ahead of me or 10 years ahead of me or beyond. They were so strong and they represented hope to me. So, and they still do. They represent hope. So I want to also say, Lynn and Leslie, thank you for bringing forward all of the wonderful Zoom classes that we have had so far. I have enjoyed them all. And I don't know how many of y'all were on the Zoom class last month with the acupuncturist. Well, not only was he really cute, but he had really great information to share. And one thing I took away from that I am still doing, because I have not been, I'm sleeping better now, but through COVID-19 and our shelter in place, I've had many nights of not sleeping well at all, and for a couple of months now. But he told us one thing that we could do to help sleep better at night is to take a hot foot bath before we go to bed. And I have been doing that. It helps with the blood flow in your feet. And my feet get chilled at night. I guess that's why I'm single, but my feet get cold at night. And so that hot bath soak is so soothing. And then I put on my little cotton socks after I put lotion on. I am telling you, it has made a difference with my sleep at night. So I'm so glad I got to hear that. And that's
great. The good story to share with that too. Do we have anybody that wants to ask a question? I just feel good with all the sharing tonight. What a fun session. Fun to hear different stories and that type of thing. And now Susan and Nina, you know that indeed you can call and ask anything. We can probably, if we don't know it, we can find it for you, or we can find out, and you've got all these resources plus many others as well. So you're in good hands, and we welcome you and are excited about having you as part of the Pink House. And what you heard from some of the discussion tonight and some of the sharing is the fact that people don't just use the Pink House while they're going through treatment. You really, it's all along the journey. So we are there for you whenever you need us. And I think that makes it a really special place too. Not just tied to treatment. Yeah.
I did want to apologize for getting emotional, but that's what happens with people at the Pink House, and that's okay. That's everybody's journey and whatever. And I also didn't know about the butterflies with Christy, and I don't tell this story everywhere because people might think I'm a little crazy. But with Tim being out of town, I was headed to church by myself. And I came to this intersection, and there was a car in front of me, and we got stopped at a stoplight. And when we stopped at that stoplight, a butterfly, orange butterfly, came and flew over the car in front of me and flew around my car the entire time I was sitting at that red light. I had to pull over. And I said at that point, God, I know I've got it, but I know, you sent me a butterfly. So it was just cool. But I don't tell that story everywhere because some people wouldn't understand it. But the Pink House is just unbelievable. You get emotional, but you laugh and cry, and sometimes you do that at the same time. And it's okay. It's okay. And through genetic testing and all that kind of stuff, there's always there. Somebody's always there to help. And I think I'm the only one too, which I'm an odd duck, but mine, I did the genetic testing. I don't carry the gene, and there's one cousin on each side, mom and dad, that had breast cancer, but I was infertility for 5 years. And back in, the 80s, I was on fertility for 5 straight years, whatever the cycle was, for 5 straight days. And my oncologist said I was either lucky or it came from fertility drugs, because when I went through the change of life and they started me on hormones, that's when it kicked in, and mine was hormone positive. So that's a little strange too. But so you can find any and every kind of story that you can imagine, but it's all okay because we're all, we're all in it together, and we can all help each other too, no matter where we are in our journey.
Absolutely.
Well said.